So I am very excited to have on the Voice of the Shy today an entrepreneur that I actually admire. I love her story. She's become one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and not just because she's been able to grow. I'm sorry. Let me uh, let me redo that. I had him edited out. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. I am excited to have on the Voice of the Shy show today an entrepreneur that I've really began to love their story, not only because she's been able to explode in the hair care and beauty industry over the last 5 years, but also just because of how humble she is. I was very fortunate to hear her story, her and her husband, who are a duo team, and how they were able to grow the business over the last 5 years. And they've scaled to 7 figures. Which I love. And without further ado, I will bring her on. She is the CEO of Curl Mix, Miss Kim Lewis.
Thank you for inviting me on the show. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm super excited to have you. Like I said, I love entrepreneur stories, especially ones that scale and grow. But more than anything, people that really give back and are humble. You know that are really humble through the process.
If you talk to Tim, he might say something different. No, I'm kidding. Tim's my husband.
Family knows us best. They know the good and the bad, and we are not CEO when we go home, right?
Oh my gosh, no! I am the girl he met in second period gym class, and that's how I get treated. I'm kidding. He's amazing, and he loves me. I just mean we go back and forth. We joke,
No, I love it. I love it. I think I told you my mom has been working with me from the beginning. So it's nothing like family business. Like you said,
right.
You know the good and the bad, you know the struggles. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to build a business with your family. And I've met a few husband and woman, husband and wife duos, but I haven't met a lot. So the fact that you all have been able to make it work has been beautiful. So
thank you. Look, a lot of Black folks don't have a choice. It's like we're gonna figure it out, or there's no other option.
Figure it out. While you're going, you got to keep figuring it out and improving it. So I kind of introed a little bit. I gave everybody a sneak peek that you all have been able to scale to 7 figures, and you've been in the industry for about 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let's tell the backstory. So you are the CEO of Curl Mix, a natural hair care brand. How did you start this? And I'm sure, did you know that you would be where you are today?
Absolutely not. I didn't actually plan to be in hair care products at all because I'm like, oh, it's too saturated. No, that was my thought back in 2013. So when I first started, I started a social network for natural hair that ultimately kind of failed, but it kind of helped me understand business and how it should work. And I did that for about a year and a half. And Tim went on the show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I signed him up for it. He ended up winning about 100,000 and we put 15,000 into the business. Wow. And meanwhile, he kept working and I was working on the business, but that business failed. So I like to look at it as like my MBA. And after doing that, I vowed that the next business we would do would make money on day one. And so we started the next business with a DIY kit, which is basically like Blue Apron for hair. We would send you all the materials to make your own hair care products. And we did that for about 2 years. And we made about 130,000 the first year, 140,000 the second year. And we just really weren't growing like a subscription box should grow. Mm-hmm. But our best-selling box was our flaxseed gel. And so our pivot was, and I got some advice from an advisor. It's like, what's your best-selling box? I'm like, it's our flaxseed gel, but no manufacturer will make it for us. Because it doesn't scale. You have to boil flax seeds and extract the gel to make it. And we found people were using it to get like really good wash and goes. And so I spent about 7 months. I spent a month in my kitchen while I was 7 months pregnant, making 50 different batches of flaxseed gel. And so I finally landed on one that was scale and that people would love. And we launched that to our audience and we sold hundreds in a matter of hours. So we had never been that successful with anything we had launched up until this point. And so we were like, we need to pivot the business. So we pivoted at the top of January 2018. And I think that month we did 3,000 in sales. But by the end of the year, we had done about 250 in 1 month. So that means the whole year we did $1 million in sales. And that was how we kind of started to grow and scale our business. When we stopped doing what we wanted to do and did what our customers were paying us to do. And so I truly understood how entrepreneurship is servanthood at its finest. Like you're serving your customers, your team, your investors, your community. You are the ultimate servant. And that is how we scale Curl Mix. And shortly after that, we ended up launching our shampoo and conditioner as a full 4-step kit to help you get the best wash and go ever. And we were featured on Shark Tank shortly after, and then Forbes 30 Under 30, and this year's Oprah's favorite list. And so just tons of accolades and really awesome things to follow.
Oh, it was so many gems and so many things you said in there. I'm definitely going to ask you about how it felt to be one of Oprah's favorites. But just to rewind back, so you talked about you were 100 and something thousand. So for a small entrepreneur just getting started, that's a lot. But what I love about what you did, and it's very similar to my story, is you can't be satisfied when you know that you can go a lot higher. But you paid attention to the data. You paid attention to what your customers actually cared about. Which I think is so important. So can you talk a little bit about having that laser focus as an entrepreneur? Because, a lot of times we can be all over the place and we have a lot of talents, oftentimes, which is great. But can you talk about the importance of really focusing in?
I've made the mistake of trying to do too many things at once several times in my entrepreneurship journey. So when we first started the Natural Hair Academy, which is a social network for natural hair, we were doing all kinds of things like making content, and we were going to trade shows, and we were like doing a bunch of different things that we thought would promote the business, even though they didn't, right? And so like we were being all over the place. I was doing the digital photography, the social media, the this and the other. There wasn't really a plan or a model there. It was more so, this is fun to do, and I'm going to figure out how to make money off of it later. That's not really like how businesses. It's not ideally designed in that way, right? You really need a model. I give you something, you give me cash back. That is like a model for the business. And then after that, we did the DIY box. We just wanted to be different. And it was cool because it was different, but the margins were 30% compared to the 70% margins that most beauty hair care companies operate on. So that means for every $1 I'm getting, they're getting 2 to 3. So I was like, I can never compete, right? But back to your question was around, how did I know to focus? So I had spent, the year and a half doing social network for natural hair. The other year, I took a break because I was like, whatever I'm doing is not working. I'm still looking for something. I'm not sure. Then we started the DIY box that for 2 years with very little success. And so I've spent 4 years at this point, just kind of like, I call it trudging through the mud, trying to figure out where to go, what to do, what I'm doing, why it's not working. And really wanting to quit because I felt like I could have been in college. I mean, I graduated with a business degree from the University of Illinois. My first job out of college was $70K annually. I could have been making 6 figures annually over the last 4 years, but I am trying to figure out entrepreneurship. That's why I don't knock people who have full-time jobs and they're cool with that, because that is a consistent way to $1 million after a decade, right? But so that I spent 4 years figuring things out. And so I was like, you know what? And then I started hearing about companies in the email marketing space where they had one product and they were doing $1 million in sales. Yes. Or 2 products, and I'm like, here I am coming up with a new box every month. It's not working. I was like, I just need to find the one thing that people actually will buy. And so what are some white spaces in the market? What are there things that people are searching for them, but they're not getting products back? And at the time, it was flaxseed gel. You could search flaxseed gel, and the only thing that would come up was DIY recipes. Even though I did not want to be a hair care manufacturer, which is why we have the DIY box element, right? You don't have to make it. The customer makes it themselves. Even though I was like, this is not necessarily who I want to be, but this is what my customers want. They're willing to spend $30 a bottle on flaxseed gel because they don't want to make it versus going to the store and getting some for $10. I was like, nobody else in the industry is going to do it, but I know how to do it and that I can do it. So then let me just give it a shot, And so I think that focus led to our success, but I honestly think it was me being hard-headed. It was me not being successful after 4 years and was like, okay, you know what? I give up. What do you want? I'm not going to keep doing the thing that I want to see. I want to do the thing that you want in the market.
I mean, I think that's so powerful and it's really true. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we fall in love with the concept of the idea and we do what we want to do. Kim and I have talked offline and I talked to her about all these different things that I want to do. But I'm also you have to pay attention to the data. You have to pay attention to, like you said, what your customers need and filling a void. So one of the things I do want to talk about as a marketing company, we work with a lot of small entrepreneurs, a lot of new startups, and we have a lot of men and women, but predominantly young women who are entering the beauty industry. So they're doing the shea butter or they're doing the the rose hip oils and all of these different things. And I see a lot of women entering the market, and I love it. Can you give some tips to them? I know we talked about marketing at one point. Can you give some tips for them to how to separate themselves in what you felt like 5 years ago was already saturated?
I would say, and it's gonna sound funny, I would say do something different. Like that's so when I listen to other beauty hair care founders, they're saying the same thing because they're having a hard time marketing in a space where we all have the same selling proposition. We all work for all hair types. We all have moisture. We all work for, you know what I mean? Like that's not what's gonna make you stand out. So for us, at first it was flaxseed gel, right? After a while, we started having people kind of entering our space, making more flaxseed gel. So, and I meant real flaxseed gel, again, like where you boil the seeds and extract the gel, not the ones where you just put oil in a regular gel, or flaxseed oil in a regular gel and call it flaxseed gel. It's not the same thing. But after that, people start entering that market. So then we're like, okay, well, what are people using the flaxseed gel for? Wash and goes. Let's own that piece of it, right? And so then all we start talking about was wash and goes. And then so did everybody else, right? And so it's what happens when you're a market leader. And we are when it comes to D2C, and I mean D2C, direct to consumer, so online sales only. And so now we're even thinking, okay, how can we continue to differentiate ourselves but still have enough mass appeal, to be successful? And so I think it's about owning a word in the consumer's mind, which is called positioning. If you read the book Positioning by Jack Trout, I think you wrote it with someone else, but read that book and you'll understand why when we say, no one says I want mosquito repellent. They say I need off, right? Because off owns a position in our mind for mosquito repellent. It's almost replaced the whole phrase. So that's what you really want to do for a brand. If you are going to do a body care line, don't do a regular like, oh, this body care line is going to give you moisture or it's going to have you glow or glisten, right? Maybe you do a special kind of bubble bath that has glitter and sparkles and stars and whatnot. And that's the thing that you're known for. And then you launch other things in the body category because people love your bubble bath. Come up with like one hero product first and then build the others off of that.
I love that because it's like once you tap into that need and you build your loyal list, and they're going to follow you for the other products. So to me, that's how I've been able to see your company grow because like you said, you own that piece. You found something that wasn't really being offered. That might've been a little hard. Like you said, you got to boil the flaxseed. You got to really figure this whole formula out for people. It might've been hard, but it paid off.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like I said, I encourage everybody who's in the beauty industry, but like I said, we get people every single day and people do a lot of the same products and there's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, tap into a need. You got to figure out your business is always to solve a problem. White out, as you mentioned, those brands that they figured out what the problem was and their name almost became synonymous with solving the problem.
Yes.
That is very powerful. Another thing that I heard you talk about, which I think probably helps you with your growth, is you all own your data. And I talk to a lot of people. So, I'm in marketing. People always ask, what are these tried true marketing tips? What's going to be the thing that's going to take me to the top? And one thing I always mention, and I'm like the only person I feel like that still mentions, is email marketing.
Oh, yes.
It's so inexpensive. But I'm always the only one on the panel like, hey, don't forget, own your data. Get people's information. Talk to them not just to sell them something. Talk to them conversational wise. Talk to them to educate them. But I heard you say that, and I was so excited when you said, we own our data because I'm sure you were able to test market with the actual data that you have. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I did the email marketing for Chromix up until we got $2 million in sales. That's in fact how we got $2 million in sales. That and then some Facebook ad spending. And then after that, one of my first critical hires was indeed an email marketer, somebody who could help scale us to that next, $5 million in revenue. And then now my email is the number one driver of revenue for our business, even today. And we have over,
somewhere because I still it's one of the most inexpensive ways to market.
Yes. We have over, I want to say 500,000 phone numbers and emails for our business. Or businesses. And so, yes, email marketing, SMS, that is the most important thing you can do for your business.
Always. So always I give tips to, create compelling offers, educate people and just give them a reason why they should be subscribing and following to your brand. And once you have them captive and once you have their ear, then you can sell them anything because they trust you. So I think that's a great tip. I want to talk a little bit about business model next. I'm having such a fun conversation with you. By the way. You're such a business nerd like I am. I'm such a business nerd. I'm always trying to figure out the success and, and just really dissecting it. And I love the fact that you like having this conversation. So something that I didn't know about Curl Mix is that you all are not in major retailers.
Mm-hmm.
You have a direct to consumer model, which is different. A lot of people aspire to be in the Targets of the world, which is nothing wrong with that. But can you talk to me a little bit about your business model and kind of like what the thought process was?
I had a conversation with my coach, my executive coach, and I was telling her that, like there are these big box names calling me, like they're really, really big. They have 5 people on the call. Like she's like, I'm like, it would be so cool to be in these stores. And she's like, but it wouldn't be profitable. I'm like, yeah, I know. She was like, or very little, right? It's like twice as much work for the same amount of money. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I was like, she's like, you might want to check your ego. And I was like, you're right, because it feels good to say, I'm in Target, I'm in Walmart, I'm in Ulta, I'm in Sephora. But the dirty little secret amongst most founders is that they're taking a huge margin and that there's so many fees on the back end. And so at the end of the day, it's really just the credibility factor. It's really just press almost. You know what I mean? Like if the checks are nice, but like when you get down to the real profit, it's like, dang, I could have just sold 50 units on my website versus like 1,000 units to y'all, And so so we focus on D2C for one of those reasons, margins. But the second biggest reason, and probably to me maybe trumps the first one, is that you don't get data from these places. And they'll tell you how their stuff is selling in a store, but they don't give you email addresses. And that's the real money, right? So it's like if you can message somebody whenever you want to have a sale or have access to them whenever you want to do something or a promotion or whatever, that's the value. They don't share that with you. What they do is they get you in their store, so you bring your customers into their store. They get your customers' data, your phone number, their phone number and email through their rewards programs or whatever, or their loyalty cards, and they don't give it to you. And I think that is just so shady. I think if I'm bringing my customers to your store, if they buy at your store, you should then share those email addresses with me.
Absolutely.
And they don't do that. And so that is why we have not gone into retail. If they were sharing the email addresses of the people who were purchasing my products in their store, then I'd maybe have a different conversation.
That makes sense. And what about I know it's a big manufacturing demand as well sometimes, to being able to keep up with the demand of retail. Well, like you said, it makes it less profitable, at least in the short term.
Yes. For retail, if you go to retail, the money is in you selling your business. That is why most people are talking that like Black entrepreneurs sell their business, but when they go into retail, they're not making a whole lot of money that they get to keep, because you got to put a lot of money into an inventory so that you can fulfill a PO at the drop of a dime. If they want to give you a 30-day turnaround, for a lot of manufacturers, you got to put in 6 weeks for an order. So if someone has a 30-day turnaround, you're already going to be late. You're not even going to get your stuff, and don't let it be late from the manufacturer. Don't let them tell you 8 to 12 weeks. Then the PO you made with Walmart is in jeopardy, right? Because if you don't make that first PO, you're in trouble. Or their fees. If you're late, they're $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 fees for being late. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but
I love that, because those are the things that you have to think about when you decide on what type of business model you want to have. So just like I said, there's nothing wrong with retail, but you have to think about it. Like you said, what your end game is going to be, the profitability.
The end game for retail is getting acquired. So if you go into retail and you're in the Walmarts and the Targets and you're in both, let's say, that brand most likely will have to sell their business to get that big payout at the end of the day. Because just being in the store is not going to make you enough money for you to feel like, man, I'm doing all this work and this is the value that I'm getting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I agree so much with that. I think, like you said, you just have to really think about it and what it is that you want to do. And it's nothing wrong with selling your business. There's nothing wrong with starting a business to sell. I think sometimes as Black entrepreneurs, we feel like it's supposed to live and die with us. And that's not always. Most people don't start a business. They think with the idea. One of my mentors told me that, Will Davis, with the idea to merge. So a lot of companies come with the idea at some point they're going to merge and get acquired by a bigger company, or they might acquire somebody else. So it's okay. But like I said, you have to understand the different business models. So speaking of mentorship, I wanted to ask you, I heard you mention a couple of things as far as mentors. So what role has that played in you being able to grow? So, again, you're young, you just starting out, you may not know this about retail. So how did you acquire the mentors you got, and how did you, get some of that information from them?
At first, I started paying for like conversations with other entrepreneurs. So sometimes we'll like hit up an entrepreneur for free advice. I didn't do that because I knew that they didn't want to do. They're still in the journey, right? Even though someone seems like they've made it, Just because they're making $1 million does not mean that they are rich by
Absolutely.
any stretch of the imagination at all. And so I paid $300 for a consultation from a peer. And then after that, I got connected to a Facebook group called Traffic Sales and Profit, which is my favorite community for Black entrepreneurs. And from there, I joined the mastermind, and I met one of my mentors and friends, Lamar Tyler. So he's the second person that I kind of got in touch with. And then from there, I started finding people who wanted to kind of be involved in what we were doing. And so everybody who's a coach or advisor to me has either equity in my business or I pay them physical cash. Nobody's doing this for free. So I have I have a female advisor who's an investor. I have a executive coach who I probably pay, annually a salary, a decent salary too. I'm a mastermind coach, another salary, and then my advisor, my male advisor, who's more the tech side, but has a venture capitalist lens on the business, and he gets equity. So I mean, those are my 4 people. Whenever I'm having issues with something, that's who I go to.
That's huge, because when you invest that time in somebody that's already learned it, you don't make the same mistakes, so you don't have the same expenses. So it might be some type of investment up front, but you really winning and saving on the long run. I hope people are, really taking this in. You're the first person that I heard that said that they paid for advice early on. I went with
time.
It does save you time.
I was working on free advice for 4 years, and I was like, look where it got me.
It saves you money. So I'll put it to people like this. So if you have to invest $10,000 for Kim Lewis, but the advice that she gives you, because she's already high 7 figures, and she can give you something or give you one strategy, that one strategy can bring you $500,000. Like, people don't realize, like, all it takes is that one thing, that one shift in mindset, that one strategy that can make the difference. So you do have to invest, and you keep a team of advisors, not just short, but you keep a team of advisors around you. And I think that's great. Like I said, I know a lot of people, so I'm gonna actually shift and talk about that. So like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm very excited to see where entrepreneurship is going, specifically Black entrepreneurs. I feel like there are so many on the cusp right now for their 7 figures. See a lot of Black girl magic. I'm sure you see it too, Kim. A lot of women just killing the game, consulting and marketing and hair care and all these other industries, fashion. And I see a lot of them on the brink for hitting that 7 figure. But I'm sure when you hit the $1 million, even the 3 million, the 5 million, I'm sure each of those levels has its own challenges. So you could speak to some of the challenges, maybe some advice for the women out here, or not all entrepreneurs. I'm sorry, fellas. For all the women, all the people out here that are trying to grow to the 7 figures.
Oh, just some advice to get there?
Some of the challenges that you face, and some of the things that it takes to really scale, because 1 million is completely different than 5.
Gotcha. So getting from 0 to 1 million, the biggest thing was finding my hero product. Finding a hero product is going to be your biggest challenge at that stage. And then once you get from 1 million, really $500,000 to $1 million is not being the person doing everything. Like trying to find people who are really good in the things, who are good generalists. I won't say you don't need specificity yet. From $500,000 to $1 million, you really need people who are good generalists. They can my email marketer, she might update the site copy. She might also, that's a copywriter, right? She might do the email, but she also might what else was she doing at the time that I would sometimes they have you doing social media. I wouldn't pay a email marketer to do social media because they're so expensive. You really want them to doing the high value stuff, but just basically getting more people on your team who are really good at multiple different things. Get to that 5 million. Getting from 1 million to 5 million, I would say capital is important. Because you are trying to grow, and growth has a cost. So usually if you have 5x growth in a year, you probably lost money on the balance sheet. You probably did not have a profitable year because you were running so fast that you maybe were buying things in bulk, so unless you're like on accrual accounting, I might be going too deep, but you're going to get bigger purchases. You know what I'm saying? Going from 1 million to 5 million. Your volume may not be always consistent each month. Your team that runs a $5 million company is going to want benefits. You're not going to be able to just be like, okay, I'm going to have all contractors. Like that doesn't work. And if you do that, you won't get high quality people who help get you to that $5 million mark. So then you start having to deal with like HR things, like taking care of people, as well as being able to buy larger amounts of inventory at discounts, which requires capital. And and then space, right? So getting from 1 million to 5 million in space. I would say from 5 million to 10 million, I think the biggest struggle is trying to, I would say the biggest struggle is trying to build organic revenue outside of the main platforms that drove you from 1 to 5. So for example, a lot of times you can get to 5 million just on like really good advertising spend, right? But you can't get from 5 to 10 like that. 5 to 10 is because that's basically duplicating your business. A business that it took you 2 or 3 years to get to 5 million, you're trying to double it. So how am I going to do that, right? And a lot of times it's not done as simple as like, oh, I'm just going to add more money to Facebook. You have to come up with either another, path on your model. You may have to come up with a different type of business to generate that more revenue, or you may have to duplicate the business you have in a different niche. Like you may have to do a lot of different things to kind of get to that 5 to 10 to that 8-figure revenue that didn't necessarily that you did to get from that 1 to 5. I don't know if is that clear. I feel like that's
clear. I mean, it's definitely deep. A lot of people are not at that 5 to 10, but I understand you got to diversify. You have to switch up.
There we go. Diversification. There we go.
But taking advantage of the base that you have, like you said, you have all of these emails. You got 500,000 emails. So what else could they use? What else would they support from coming from a Curl Mix brand?
Yeah,
but like that might be
like channels,
Exactly, completely different, product line, something completely different, but where you can tap into what you've already built up, because it's hard to continue to build and continue to scale on the same. So no, that made a lot of sense. I did have one question about, you talked about investments. So for entrepreneurs, and I know, and I'll even speak honestly about myself, we've been able to grow. We didn't have any debt until we purchased our building a couple of years ago. So before that, I was very proud, not to have debt. And even with this, all of the COVID relief funds that were going on, we were able to get, different grants and things like that. But when it came to the SBA loan, I was like, oh no, I don't want a loan. I'd rather get the money that I don't have to pay back. So I think it's a limited belief. And I learned my lesson, but I think it's a limited belief that a lot of entrepreneurs have about debt, and specifically Black entrepreneurs, right? We don't have, historically, we haven't seen our parents and these other people around us or our peers be able to scale and grow, even though they use debt to grow. So I know you talked about it a little bit, but just if you had a couple of pointers for the way that you were able to, like you said, use debt, like you said, because you actually need it to grow. And I think that I'm just speaking honestly for myself. I even felt that way, like, oh no, I don't want to have to, take on a loan or do this or do that. I want to just buy it outright. And I think it's because of our background, but we can't get to that 5 million if we don't be smart about the type of debt that we take.
Right, exactly. No, and I've never been a stranger to debt, personally or business wise. Just because I knew that, especially for Black people, we're not able to get venture capital like everybody else, like not in the ways that most people get it. So then how do you have access to capital to grow your business? So then you are stuck with loans. But the thing about loans is that loans to me are wonderful because you're not trading in equity for your business. Yeah. So I could raise another round of funding, but that means I would lose 15, 10, 20% of my business. And I would gain some millions in exchange for it, which would be great. But I have visions of being like a Procter & Gamble one day. And Procter & Gamble's been around since the 1800s. So if somebody has sold off 20% of Procter & Gamble in the 1800s, it will be worth billions now. And so I am very aware of that. And I do not doubt that we can get to $1 billion in revenue. And so I don't want to just throw away my equity all willy-nilly. So what's the alternative, y'all? And if you're not super profitable, what's the alternative to getting capital? Debt. And so for me, I get excited for a loan. Because I was like, oh, this is going to save my equity. But you're right. For a long time, I did have this. I used to freak out about $15,000 in credit card debt. I'd be like, oh no, oh my God. Like, y'all don't even want to know what's on my cards now, right? Because basically, in order to get the business to $1 million, my personal finances sacrificed. So Timothy and I had excellent credit. He had, a multiple 6-figure job. Like, we were making money, and so our credit was excellent. We bought our house, and then the business started to take off. And then that's when he kind of quit his job. And then we started pouring all of our money. We basically took a year where we went unpaid for the most part. Well, look, the business only paid us enough to cover our mortgage. But you can imagine if he was on a 6-figure salary and we only made another $60,000 one year, that's another $100,000 that went to our debt. But it was also to build up that $1 million in equity, that $1 million business, which then helped us secure an investment that gave us a $12 million valuation. So then it's like, I'm still sitting with some of this debt that I'm working to get off with some of the new ventures that we're diving into. But that sacrifice that I made was my debt, and my credit helped build the valuation of my company. So now my company's worth, if I did a new round, at least $20 million, you know, but that was a sacrifice to get to it, you know?
Say that again, Kim, one more time.
It's on paper. So I was like, at least. I just did a multiple of revenue. So at least 3 times revenue, which would be at least 20 million.
That is amazing. I'm so proud of you all to be able to do that in like 5 years. Like I said, I've been doing this a while, and I'm always looking at examples of success and really figuring out how people got there. And you are definitely in a category only amongst a few other people. So I applaud the fact that you were able to do it. And I think it really comes from you understanding your business, paying attention to the financials, like you said, not being afraid of that, acquiring the mentorship and the support that you needed, and actually paying for that value. I did want a couple other questions, and then I'm gonna get to my fun Oprah question.
Okay.
So let's talk about the team. So you talked about valuation. I mean, you talked about, people getting equity in your company. That can be intimidating to a lot of people. So I know you mentioned some of your, the people that you have on your advisory team, but who else do you have, like as far as legal, lawyer, just so people can kind of get a feel for, this is the team that I need to build if I'm trying to hit 5-10 million, maybe go public at one point?
Yes. So we have an attorney. And I just found out that I have to get a litigator. So I have 2 attorneys. I have 2 attorneys that I'm paying for on retainer. We also I have a CFO. So I hired a CFO, I want to say top of last year, because I don't know anything about accounting. We also have a CMO and a chief customer officer. Who else do I have? I have tons of insurance. I hate insurance. So much insurance that you're required to have. We have we also have a chemist on staff. So I'm no longer doing formulating all the recipes because we just needed help. It was too much for me to do. Who else do we have with us? I mean, I have multiple investors. The CEO of LinkedIn, he was our lead investor. Wow. And there were some other folks who invested alongside him, as well as Arlen from Backstage Capital. And then I really need PR, but I haven't quite. We get it so easily that it's weird. Yeah. I don't necessarily want to pay for it. Like, yes, people just reach out all the time, wanting to feature us and stuff. So I would have that on my team though, if we did not get PR so easily. And who else? I have a team who does our media buying and manages our ads. It's just a lot of stuff. Like at the time, when you start to get to that like 7-8 figures, that high 7 figures, is so many people on the team, so many.
You got a full organizational structure. And I love what you mentioned earlier in the interview. You said, and I tell people this all the time when people say they want to be an entrepreneur because they don't want to answer to anyone. I'm like, you have to answer to more people.
Oh, but it's not the job that you don't want to answer to nobody.
You answer to more people. I'm making my customers happy. I'm trying to make sure that my team is okay, that they're getting things done. It's like you're literally answering. You have all of these people. You create all of this accountability, especially when you're the face. When people see you, I can only imagine the type of questions you get in comments about products, about, I'm still waiting on something. I mean, people feel like that you hands-on with everything. So you have to answer all of those things.
Kim, I know she made my order, but
yes,
I'd be like, there are 40 people who work here. Like,
I'm sure. So I do want to ask about Oprah's favorite thing. So I saw you all post about that. That seemed pretty exciting. So how was that?
That was pretty phenomenal. When they first reached out, I was like, is this real? I was like, and then afterwards, and they verified who they were and whatnot. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what press is left? Like, what other, Oprah knows.
Has it been released digitally already?
It has. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you all receive like an uptick or some,
We did. The biggest thing is I got 1 million text messages on my phone, like, congratulations. But there's definitely an uptick in sales for sure.
I thought it was just amazing that she chose to focus on mainly Black entrepreneurs and Black businesses.
I think so too.
I thought it was just amazing. I love when we use our power to shine light on other people, and I feel like that's what she always does. So I know a couple people got something to say about Oprah, but you can't tell me anything bad about Oprah.
Same, right? They always have something to say about rich Black women. Okay, we don't want to hear it. All right, keep your comments about Beyonce and Michelle and Oprah.
Yes.
Keep them to yourself.
I'm like, I don't know who you talking to, but So the theme of this issue is rebuilding Black Wall Street. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to feature you all, because we feel like you all are an example of that. So do you have any insight or thoughts on that as far as like the resurgence of Black entrepreneurs right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, what, Black Wall Street and it happening?
Yes.
Like, oh yeah,
back.
For a lot of Black folks, we leave corporate not because we don't want to answer to anyone, but because we don't feel like we belong in those environments, because those companies are not led by Black people. So they're not comfortable places for Black people to be, honestly. And I think, and that's what I found with a lot of the Black women who come and work at Curl Mix. And so I think that there's a huge resurgence of like Black economic wealth. And I think that's coming through the way of like direct consumer, things that have low barrier to entry, because you can't stop us, you know? And I think that it's being rebuilt in various communities online and different Facebook groups. I mean, everybody has a group with some kind of Black entrepreneur or something, you know? And so I just feel like it's just a matter of time. I'm interested to see what my kids, you know, community will look like, if they'll be having the same issues or if they'll be more privileged, you know? So my hope is that they'll be more privileged, you know, but we'll see, you know, we'll see.
It is definitely emerged. I love to see the consciousness rise. So we've had this publication for about 10 years and we've been promoting Black dollars and Black consumers, you know, since the beginning. But I just seen such a surge now that, you know, you have 19 and 20-year-olds that are looking for Black owned first. And I think that's the biggest thing, because I think that the stronger we are and the more sustainable a Curl Mix is, you can support another Black owned business. You can offer scholarships and things like that. So it just becomes this ecosystem where I'm really excited and optimistic on where we'll be 10 or 15 years from now. I think it will be a whole new wave of Black wealth and a whole new stability. And once we're stable and once we're conscious that not only do we have the money, but I need to recycle that money directly back to somebody who not only looks like me, but has the same interests as me. That's trying to push the same missions for us. So it's not just enough to look like somebody, but you have to be about something. You have to be an organization and a company that cares about the community and wants to give back, because that's really what makes the difference. Absolutely. So this has been amazing. I want you to end it however you want to, talking about Curl Mix 2021, just new ideas, anything that really just excites you.
We are working on just new projects, potentially new brands, and just trying to scale the company, but also continue to have impact. So keep manufacturing here on the west side of Chicago, hiring people of color, starting them at $17 an hour at least, benefits, 401k, et cetera. Like, that's my goal. It's just to create more jobs. And that's my reason for scaling, not because I just want to make more money. I want to see the impact that we have in our community.
You want to see the impact. I love it. Everybody should be supporting Curl Mix. For all the natural hair care girls, for all the natural hair care people in your family, everybody should support you all. Is there any other thing that you all do? Like, do you all have any nonprofits, anything else that people can support?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, I'm predicting that's coming 2020.
But thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. Oh my gosh, I enjoyed myself so much.
Oh, it was so fun. Nothing like when phenomenal Black women get together, right? And I hope that we just empower so many other women. I know you gave a lot of good information that I feel like, again, all it takes is one piece of advice to make it click and say, you know what? I wasn't focused enough. I wasn't doing this. And I'm going to take what Kim said and I'm going to adapt that to my business. And that may scale them to that 7 and 8 figures and beyond. So I thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiana. Have a beautiful day.
You too, Kim.